Well, hello again, this time from outside the Amex Stadium. Yeah, and it's not over. Officious stewards in there kicking me out. It's my fault this time. I just took too long to pour back over. There we are, he's enjoyed it. I just took too long to pour back over everything that happened there in the second half. It was chaotic, it was curious, it was furious, it was everything great from a journalistic perspective, plenty to get stuck into. And yeah, the locals behind us there, I don't know if you can pick up the noise, they're certainly celebrating the point. Not that they seem too happy on the end of some of the refereeing decisions, and we've got to go back through all of those. And I think Newcastle should be happy with the point. Now, some of you might disagree with that, because I would agree if your take is that was a game that was there to be won. I don't think Brighton were very good at all. And another day, I think Newcastle should come here and show more authority and more intent and an injection of energy from the off. They didn't really do that. They wasted the first half. The first half was an absolute waste. They had more of the ball, they had more of the positions of promise, that territory, but did absolutely nothing with it. And probably at the end of the first half, even though I thought they were the better team, you wouldn't say trailing was undeserved, because I thought they only really had themselves to blame. So in the context of that they were probably the better team in the first half, they were definitely the better team in the second half, you would say, yeah, it was an opportunity missed, and Newcastle probably could and should have won this game. But the reason I say Newcastle should be okay with the point, if not as going as to far to celebrate it, is that the difference between a defeat and a draw is huge. It's arguably, and please take this the right way in the spirit it's meant, it's arguably bigger than the difference between a draw and a victory in the context of what they're trying to achieve with the top five. Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on my bag here over my shoulder. Yeah, I think there's a bigger difference between the two, and Eddie Howe almost agreed with that when he come to reflect with us afterwards. Psychologically, there's a psychological dent of losing this match here, given that they did play okay. There's then the actual practical dent. There could not be more noise, pollution and distractions outside here. I thought the Milburn steps were chaotic, but anyway, we'll go on. But the difference between the point in terms of what it does actually practically for Newcastle in the league table, especially as the big screens behind us there have just shown Chelsea to win the game now against Liverpool. Now, if Newcastle, by my calculations, and I do now need to go back on the train back up north there and then really sort of pour over this, but my calculations would have it, given Forest play Chelsea on the final weekend, if Newcastle can take 7 points from the last 3 games, and one of those is a victory over Chelsea, I don't see a way they can't finish in the top 5. So by taking that point, after a roller coaster of a ride here with more ups and downs than you would experience on Brighton Pleasure Pier, they've kept a grip on their own destiny, and they've done that because of the late penalty. Now, let's go back over the game. Newcastle started okay. I thought they had a purposeful burst from Harvey Barnes there, and yeah, they had a lot of the ball. I expected Newcastle to come here and to cede possession to Brighton. Perhaps Newcastle had too much of the ball, given is it not more of their strength exploiting space with pace, and they didn't do a great deal with it. There was a lot down the left. Tino Livramento and had a lot come up from Harvey Barnes. Again, that end product wasn't really there. Jacob Murphy likewise on the other side, and they then go a goal down. And given the history here, it's like coming to Brighton is like a trip to the dentist for Newcastle in the Premier League. 8 visits now, not one single victory from it, and yeah, it threatened to be another pretty excruciating trip as well, didn't it? And Yankubu Minteh scores the goal, and it's poor. First of all, it's poor from Tino Livramento. It doesn't really do enough to get time to him. It's then even more poor from Sandro Tonali, who, if you go back over my recent videos, I think I've given him 3 stars, and he hasn't been off the podium in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 matches, certainly all of them since the cup final. Now for noise pollution, how about this good past? Yeah, because for one, Sandro Tonali wasn't sweeping up the day. He's normally here, there and everywhere putting out fires, much like the road sweeper there on our shoulder, but he wasn't that today. He arrives on the box to block Minteh's shot, and he, criminal really, turning his back on it, and that was symptomatic of Tonali's performance of a whole. The asterisk is he's been tremendous. He's been tremendous all season, certainly in recent weeks. He, for me, is the biggest reason they're in the position they're in. So he's allowed that today, but yeah, it wasn't good. It was so out of character. And again, the goal in his part, and that captured that. So Brighton's 1-0 up, and At one point in the first half, Eddie Howe is just down in front of us and he's furiously clapping his hands, not in applause of his team, because there wasn't a great deal of applause really, just trying to quicken them up, to get things to go more quickly, to inject that bit of pace, that bit of intent, and it didn't arrive, it didn't come really until Antony Gordon was brought off the bench early in the second half for Jacob Murphy, and straight away Gordon's arrival changes. They're on the up, much like McQuiff. Straight away Newcastle are on the up and on the front foot, and Gordon's arrival, well that makes that happen for me. And it's just I use that word, I come back to the word intent. His first involvement is winning the first of Newcastle's 3 penalty awards. He drives into the box, Tariq Lamptey with a clumsy foot, Gordon goes over it, and Craig Pawson points to the spot. Not so, it's the right call, we criticise VAR, I tend not to. I think it gets far more wrong than it gets right, and on this occasion it gets it right. The challenge is outside the area. You just worry that delay, that might knock Newcastle. Has it halted their momentum? No, they come again, and Gordon's involved. Now listen, Antony Gordon, after that, really, in terms of final product, it was much like what had gone before with most of his colleagues in the first half, but the arrival of just his intent and playing on the front foot, for me, it makes a big difference. And Newcastle, to the credit, no, it doesn't knock them. They come back for more, and they get a second penalty. It's actually a little bit of a mix-up. It's Bruno Guimaraes through ball. Alexander Isak misreads it. Credit to Joe Willock, he doesn't give up the lost cause. He charges onto it. It looks for all the world as if Jean-Paul Van Heck has mistyped his challenge, taken Willock clean out. It's a penalty. It's a penalty. Craig Dawson again points to the spot. It goes to VAR, and it's then when you see the replay. I don't know if you guys have seen these too, if you agree or not. Again, all comments welcome below the line. There's a hell of a lot to talk about from this one. It's not a penalty for me. Joe Willock down below, the VAR monitor wasn't far from where I was in the press box. Joe Willock is trying to claim his knee was caught. I didn't see that, and I think, okay, it's two correct calls. Again, you wonder and you worry that it might just knock Newcastle, especially as even still at that point, yes, there was more purpose, but was there more quality? No, there wasn't. I thought Harvey Barnes really stuck at it, having not been great in the first half, and he then wins the free kick with a direct run. He's skirting around the edge of the area, he's taken out. I think that this lorry's going to take me out as well. If Craig Pawson was here, he'd probably give another penalty, even for minimal contact, just brushing there behind me. Craig Pawson gives a free kick. This time he gets it right. He notices the Barnes challenge is outside the area. Fabian Schär lines it up, and it strikes it strikes the arm. It does strike the wall, but part of the wall was Ayeri's arm. And blatant penalty. Looked at it in real time, looked at it on replays. I don't know why there was the VAR delay. You do worry, goodness, are they going to overturn it? Third spot kick they don't. And credit to Alexander Isak, because he hadn't had his best game. I thought he was better in the second half, but he hadn't had his best game. But twice he had prepared mentally to take that spot kick. So to step up, knowing what was riding on it, knowing in the context of Newcastle's quest to get in that top 5, it would be a huge point for all the reasons we've spoken about previously, psychologically and practically. And to send the goalkeeper the wrong way, then roll into the bottom corner, brilliant, well done. That's why he is top class. That's why he's world class. That's why we love him and think of him what we do, even though he still is, to use that phrase, probably slightly off the boil, slightly somewhere short of his best. Certainly in the first half, I think, got to 26 minutes. He only had, I think it was 3 touches overall. None of them were in the opposition penalty area. That for me is a little bit of a failing of the team around him, but also himself as well. Ultimately, as a footballer, it comes back on you. You look after number 1. You go and get involved in the game and make things happen. He did that slightly more in the second half. Anyway, we digress. So that's the penalty, rightly awarded, 1-1. The drama isn't done there, but just to revisit, to go back, I think Brighton should have had a penalty that would have made it 2-0. Tonali again capturing his afternoon of absolute misadventure, dropping it around, ball's bounced in the penalty area, he swipes at it and he catches Matt O'Reilly. He does for me. I think it should be a spot kick. I think VAR were probably too busy, the guys in Stockley Park, providing their explanations for the PGMOL statements that were being released for the previous 2. They've probably missed that one. Newcastle escape, and what a big escape it was given what then played out. We then go into 9 minutes of added time, and 9 minutes you think, goodness, this is probably enough for Craig Pawson to award another 3 penalties. In fact, every time he was pointing for a goal kick, I thought, is that another spot kick he's given there? You just didn't know. It wasn't a good afternoon for the referee, and I am someone who was ordinarily very protective of referees. Anyway, we're going to stoppage time, 9 minutes. It's not done there. Brighton should win it, really. Free kick comes in. It's Gomez, free header, 6 yards. Unforgivable why Newcastle have got themselves back at 1-1 and they allow Gomez that space. He then plants the header the wrong side of the post. Terrible miss, but Newcastle go up the other end. Again, it's Harvey Barnes, Thought he got a lot better second half. Drives them forward. Plays in Callum Wilson. Wilson does nothing wrong, really. I think he actually does really well to get that shot away as quick as he does. Verbruggen pushes it over the bar. And yeah, was a draw just about fair? Well, probably if there was one team who was going to win it, it would and should have been Newcastle. But on the balance of it, as I said at the top of this video, I think they'll be just about happy to come out of it with the point in the end. And Eddie Howe said as much as well to us afterwards. They haven't drawn a game since December the 4th against Liverpool, and even though they've lost 6 in that time, winning 20 of the previous 26, I do think there is merit in what they did today, kicking, clawing, scraping their way to that point, and a point which does make, I keep on coming back to it, I just think that difference in terms of what I was writing, what I was feeling between the defeat and the draw is absolutely massive. That in a strange way, even though in the context of the game it might not feel like this, it feels like a little bit of a victory for Newcastle. Maybe I'm over egging that. Now, in terms of how did they get there, who were my top performers, some of the guys who don't make the podium, I've just mentioned them before and it popped out in my head, I want to mention it. I thought that was Callum Wilson's best cameo in a long while, even though from the moment of the handball before the penalty was awarded, he probably should have put that header in. Actually, bizarrely again, Craig Pawson already blown for the penalty. So if Wilson had scored and it wasn't a penalty, the goal would have been disallowed and that would have been the tin hat on Craig Pawson's afternoon, bless him. It really would have been. But yeah, Newcastle's top performers. Now the 1 star, and I've wrestled with this, and I know some of my friends on Newcastle WhatsApp groups disagree. I'm going to give it to Antony Gordon. Gordon wasn't brilliant in terms of actually what he provided and what he produced technically after he won the penalty, but his arrival did change things. It just changed the mentality and the makeup of Newcastle. And at that end, a player who comes on and helps change a game, you'll go on my podium. I'm a big believer in that. So Antony Gordon, 1 star. 2 stars, well, they go to Kieran Trippier. I thought it was another steady, solid outing from him. Now, there wasn't loads of competition for this. I'm almost getting to these stars by default in a way, given I thought Tonali had a poor game. I thought Bruno didn't do nowhere near enough. A couple of others at the back weren't great either. But yeah, Kieran Trippier, there was a moment in the second half when I think if Brighton go 2 up, Newcastle wouldn't find a way back into it. Minty puts the ball across the box. Kieran Trippier arrives. It was almost lost really amidst the chaos that then followed. But that big block, and I think it was about 52 minutes, was huge. Trippier clears it. But I thought all game he was just steady enough. He did okay. And the 3 stars, well, they go to Dan Burn. Now, Brighton targeted him. That much was clear, and there was 1 or 2 little hairy, ropey moments when they were trying to deny him that space. They were on the ball, they were getting right beneath him, around him, they're trying to get in behind him, they're trying to target him. It didn't really come off. I thought he recovered, and I thought he handled himself well, and I thought he stood up big to the threat they had from the left, from the right, through the middle with Danny Welbeck at times. Burn negated that, and it's not 8.5s, 9s, nowhere near it, but it's a solid 7.5 out of 10. So who else was there in there? Well, yeah, Harvey Barnes, I think, is unlucky to miss out on the podium, but I've probably put Gordon in ahead of him just because I like players who change games, and even if that's just a mentality, an intent thing, Gordon did that. But the pick of the lot, well, yeah, that was Dan Burn. Now, where does this leave Newcastle going forward in that quest for the top 5? Well, I think in a pretty good place. Yes, the game against Chelsea next week, it's huge, it's massive, attach whatever superlative you want to it. It's potentially, not potentially, I think the winner will go on to take the Champions League place, at least one of them anyway. But Newcastle avoiding defeat here, and just the manner in which they came together and came back in the second half, I think that leaves them in good stead going into that game next week. Before we get too carried away with individual predictions and what might or might not happen, I remain convinced and confident that Newcastle will qualify for the Champions League. It's mad that if they'd won today, we'd be talking with absolute positivity and assertiveness that they were going to go on and finish second. Arsenal, by the way, are in danger of coming 7th in what looked like a 2-horse race for the top 2. We would have been talking about Newcastle finishing second, but a defeat, we would have been talking about them finishing 7th. So to that end, to come away with a point, it's almost as you were to a degree, even though results elsewhere have gone against them. I still think it leaves them in a strong position, crucially with their destiny in their own hands. So that's where I'm going to finish, guys, before my pal in the sweeper comes back. I'm here jumping up on a train back up north, but not as far north as you think. I'm only going as far as Gatwick because I'm lucky at Gatwick, because I'm lucky enough to be going to Milan tomorrow to do the second leg of Inter versus Barcelona. Now, the last time I was at a Champions League semi-final in the San Siro, I spotted Sandro Tonali. I didn't necessarily spot him, I didn't unearth him. It's not like Columbus finding America. Newcastle were already well onto him, but I did then come back and speak to people inside Newcastle and say, yeah, what about Tonali? Anyway, yeah, I might spot another player. Stay logged on to all my content, comments below the line, like, comment, subscribe, get involved. I love it, guys, it's brilliant. 3 more roller coasters to go. There are enough up and downs here today, like I said earlier, for Brighton, Pleasure Beach. See you soon, bye-bye.